Hello everyone, today we will talk about something that might make you feel a little personally attacked. But don't worry, if it stings, it probably means it's true. Welcome back to the channel where we peel back the layers of your mind, question your emotional reflexes, and gently, very gently, drag you out of the emotional quicksand you didn't know you were drowning in. So today's video is called, Without Discipline, Your Emotions Will Run Your Life. And honestly, I agree. Because if you've ever promised yourself you'd just relax today, and then spiraled into a 3-hour anxiety trip about a coworker's passive-aggressive Slack message from last week, well, welcome home. Now, before we get into the juicy bits, like the moment you finally realize your emotions are running your life like a bad manager in a fast food kitchen, please do me a tiny favor. So before you and I watch the video, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you really, really like what I do here. Alright. Let's get into it. It starts with something small. You're standing in the kitchen, spoon halfway to your mouth, and suddenly, it hits you. Someone unfollowed you. Or maybe your partner said okay, instead of okay, smiley face, in a text. Maybe your boss didn't reply to your email, and now you're spiraling into a 10-minute mental montage of being fired, broke, homeless, and somehow, back in high school in your underwear. You ever notice how fast your brain goes from, no big deal, to, I'm being abandoned and betrayed? That's not logic. That's your emotions, stealing the steering wheel. And they don't even ask nicely. They yank it. You don't remember agreeing to be led by insecurity, resentment, or unfiltered rage. But here you are, swerving emotionally down a metaphorical highway with a blindfold on, and your inner 5-year-old gripping the wheel and screaming, I'm fine! Now pause. Have you ever actually watched yourself react? Like really noticed it? Here's a fun little moment for you to recall. You're texting someone, and they leave you on read. What happens next is not just confusion. It's a full Shakespearean-level emotional monologue. Why haven't they replied? Are they mad at me? Am I annoying? Do they hate me now? Did I come on too strong? Should I apologize for breathing too loud via text? If this sounds like you, don't panic. You're not broken. You're just normal. Emotionally normal. But here's the twist. Being emotionally normal in a world that's emotionally reckless isn't doing you any favors. You can't afford to be normal. Not if you want peace. Most of us are carrying around years of emotional patterns we never chose. Reactions we inherited. Default behaviors programmed by panic, fear, ego, and, let's not forget, your second-grade teacher who told you not to cry in class, and messed up your entire ability to feel things normally. So now, when life throws a bump your way, you don't slow down. You launch. You fire back. You sulk. You internalize. And worst of all, you justify it. But the truth? Emotional outbursts are not your personality. They're habits. And most of your feelings aren't facts. They're just echoes of a system that never got a software update. Let's do a little visual. Imagine you're holding a glass of water. Someone bumps into you. Water spills. Now, why did the water spill? You're probably thinking, because someone bumped me. Nope. The water spilled because you were carrying water. If the glass was empty, nothing would have come out. You get it now, right? What spills out of you when you get bumped is what's already inside of you. Frustration. Bitterness. Resentment. Guilt. That's not the world's fault. That's storage. And without discipline, you never clean out the glass. Let's go back to you standing in the kitchen, holding that spoon. You're angry, and you don't know why. You think it's the text, or the meeting, or the traffic. But it's none of those things. It's the fact that you never learned how to regulate. You never learned to pause. You never got the manual on what to do when your feelings flood your system. You just felt them. And then reacted. And now you're here. Burned out. Confused. Drained. Wondering why life feels like a never-ending emotional roller coaster you didn't line up for. Let me tell you something gently. like a whisper wrapped in a truth bomb. Your emotions aren't in charge, unless you let them be. You're not a helpless passenger. But you have been handing them the keys. Let's break this down. You are not your feelings. You have feelings. They're like weather, temporary. But when you become your feelings, you forget that the storm will pass. You build your life around the lightning. And that's exhausting. Here's the real kicker. Discipline isn't about being cold or emotionless. It's not about pushing everything down until you explode at a birthday party over the wrong brand of hummus. It's about building a container strong enough to hold the emotions without being swept away by them. Because if you don't build it, emotions will build it for you. And guess what they use? Guilt, fear, shame, procrastination, self-doubt, rage, self-sabotage, and too many lattes. Seriously, if coffee could fix your life, it would have by now. So, as we start this journey together, just know this: if you've been feeling out of control, reactive, anxious, or overwhelmed, this isn't about fixing you. It's about finally taking the wheel back. And maybe, just maybe, firing that emotional toddler who's been pretending to be your life coach. Next up, we're going to challenge one of the most damaging lies you've been told since you could walk and throw a tantrum. You know the one. Just be yourself. Yeah. That. Stick around. You've heard it your whole life. Probably from a well-meaning teacher or a YouTube thumbnail with a rainbow in the background. Just be yourself. And you believed it, right? You took it as gospel. Like, yes, I am enough. I should follow my heart. I deserve to scream into a pillow because I didn't get enough likes on my post. But here's the plot twist nobody tells you. What if yourself is kind of a mess? What if being yourself means giving free rein to your worst emotional impulses? Like crying in the car because the drive-thru forgot your fries. Again. Let's talk about it. Because just be yourself sounds empowering, until you realize it's the emotional equivalent of telling someone with food poisoning to just trust their gut. You've been told to honor your feelings, speak your truth, embrace your emotions. And I'm not saying that's all bad advice. But when those emotions are loud, unfiltered, dramatic, and possibly based on a complete misread of a situation, maybe being yourself isn't helping. Maybe you're not being yourself, you're being your emotions dressed up in a hoodie of authenticity. Here's a little scene you'll recognize. You're in a disagreement with someone. You feel disrespected. They said something that felt condescending. You feel heat in your chest, you feel your jaw tighten, and next thing you know, you say something a little too sharp, a little too personal, and boom. The room goes quiet. What just happened? You were yourself. But you were the version of yourself who runs on reflex and ego. The version who doesn't pause. The version who reacts first and rationalizes later. Let me be blunt, but with a warm, comforting voice. Your emotions are real. But they are not always right. And trusting every emotional instinct you have is like giving a toddler your debit card because they seemed really passionate about a toy in the store window. Here's the deeper truth no one's posting on Instagram. You are not your emotions. You are your choices. Let that settle for a second. Your feelings are data, not commands. You can feel jealous without acting shady. You can feel insecure without oversharing online. You can feel angry without turning into a human flamethrower in your group chat. Emotions don't need to be suppressed, they need to be supervised. But if you've grown up in the culture of feel it, say it, express it, without a filter, you probably see emotional expression as some sort of personal truth. Like, if I feel it, it must mean something. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it just means you didn't sleep enough and someone chewed too loud. There's this tricky lie that modern life has sold you, that authenticity is always noble. That vulnerability equals truth. But there's a difference between vulnerability and volatility. The first opens hearts. The second blows things up and calls it growth. So if you're constantly just being yourself and leaving emotional wreckage behind you like a raccoon in a luxury kitchen, it's time to ask. Which self are you being? The impulsive self? The defensive one? The one that lives in reaction mode 24/7? Because newsflash, that's not your full self. That's just the loudest part of you on autopilot. Real you is under there. Quieter. Wiser. But you only meet that version when you stop letting emotions ride shotgun. Let's go full detective for a second. Think of a time you really messed up emotionally. You snapped at someone. Or ghosted a conversation. Or made a huge decision based on a temporary mood. How long did it take for regret to show up? 30 minutes? An hour? 2 years and a bad tattoo later? Emotions are fast. Discipline is slow. But only one of them sticks around to clean up the mess. And I know what you're thinking. So what, I'm just supposed to be a robot? Bottle everything up? Pretend I'm fine all the time? No. Please don't do that. That's how people end up crying in Target next to the storage bins. What I'm saying is, don't let being yourself become an excuse to never evolve. Growth hurts. It's awkward. It means becoming aware of your own ridiculous patterns and saying, okay, maybe screaming about the dishes isn't deep emotional honesty. It's just me avoiding how tired I am. You want an example? Let's say you're in a situationship. You know, that not quite relationship, but you've already mentally adopted pets together. You feel anxious when they don't reply for a few hours. Your stomach twists. Your mind spins stories. You feel like you're being played. So what do? You text something spicy. Or you pull back. Or you stalk their Instagram to see if they've been active. You act on emotion. What would discipline do? Discipline would pause. Discipline would sit with the discomfort. Discipline would say, let me feel this fully before I decide anything. And discipline would wait until the storm passes to speak. Because reacting in the middle of an emotional storm is like texting with oven mitts on. You will mess it up. Here's the moment of truth. Being your highest self requires you to stop idolizing your raw self. Think of the most grounded, emotionally stable people you admire. Are they the ones screaming into the void, reacting to everything, constantly triggered? Or are they calm? Composed? The kind of people who choose their response? Exactly. That's not fake. That's not robotic. That's mastery. And here's the mic drop moment. Discipline doesn't kill your personality. It protects it from being hijacked by your worst moods. Because the most you version of you is the one who isn't run by fear, defensiveness, or the need to clap back immediately. It's the one who feels everything, and still chooses wisely. So next time someone tells you to just be yourself, pause. Ask, which self? The one who burns bridges? Or the one who builds them with bricks of self-control? Coming up next, we're gonna demolish another myth that's probably holding you back. The one that says discipline equals control freak energy. Spoiler, it doesn't. But it does involve time, attention, and maybe, for now, skipping that third cookie. So, discipline. Yeah, I know. The word itself makes you clench your jaw a little. It smells like early mornings, spreadsheets, and people who alphabetize their sock drawers. Discipline, to most people, sounds like the opposite of fun. It sounds stiff. Like someone who corrects your grammar while you're crying. But let's get real. What if you've completely misunderstood what discipline actually is? Most of us grew up thinking that discipline meant being boring. Rigid. Cold. Like some kind of emotionally constipated robot who says things like, I don't do feelings, I do structure. You picture a person who eats kale chips, drinks room temperature water, and gets up at 4:30 a.m. just to judge you. But what if I told you that discipline isn't the prison? It's the escape route. Let's run a little life simulation. You wake up on a Monday morning. No plan. No structure. You check your phone first, emails, memes, one too many group chats that somehow all decided 7 a.m. was a great time to be chaotic. You scroll, you stress, you snooze again. Suddenly it's 10:47 a.m. You haven't eaten. You've already overthought 3 conversations from last week. You feel behind. So you decide, why not just call today a mental health day? Except, you've done that 4 times this month. Now, let's rewind the tape. Same you? Same Monday. But you've got discipline in your pocket, not as a drill sergeant, but as a quiet, wise sidekick. You don't reach for your phone. You stretch. You drink some water that doesn't taste like regret. You write down what matters today, 3 big tasks. That's it. You sit with your feelings for a second, they're still there, but they don't scream. And instead of drowning in everything, you start something. Which version of you feels more free? Spoiler, it's not the one still scrolling in bed with cereal crumbs on your chest. Here's what nobody tells you when they push the do what feels right agenda. Chaos feels good in the short term, but it bankrupts your peace long term. Let's talk freedom, because that's what everyone thinks discipline steals. But freedom without discipline is actually a trap. It's like giving a kid unlimited access to candy, iPads, and a trampoline, and then acting surprised when they're screaming in the backyard in their underwear at 11 p.m. Freedom with discipline? That's something different. That's the kind of freedom where your days actually serve you. Where your mind doesn't feel like a shaken soda can. Where your calendar isn't full of broken promises to yourself. You want real power? It's not in saying, I do what I want when I want. It's in saying, I do what I said I'd do, even when I don't feel like it. Because that version of you? That one gets things done. That one builds. That one isn't perfect, but they're consistent, and consistency, my friend, is what emotional toddlers fear the most. Now I get it. We live in a feelings-first culture. You've probably been told your emotions are the ultimate compass. And yes, emotions are important. But they are not leaders. They're advisors at best. Moody, unpredictable advisors who sometimes want to eat 4 cupcakes and quit your job. Discipline steps in like a calm friend and says, hey, let's maybe not destroy our life today over a temporary feeling. You ever notice how easy it is to convince yourself to quit when you're emotional? I'm tired, I'll skip the gym today. I'm anxious, I'll cancel that meeting. I'm overwhelmed, I'll ghost this entire week. And look, sometimes rest is important. Sometimes canceling is the wise choice. But you've got to be honest with yourself. Is that your higher self making that call, or your inner escape artist? Discipline isn't about ignoring your emotions. It's about guiding them. You don't throw your GPS out the window just because it reroutes you. You keep driving. That's what discipline is. It's not hard edges and military vibes. It's a quiet, repeated decision to keep moving forward, even when your emotions are throwing glitter tantrums in the back seat. Let's add a touch of absurdity, just for fun. Imagine if your emotions ran a boardroom. Jealousy is the CEO. Anxiety is the intern who won't stop screaming. Anger storms in late, throws a chair, and declares that no one respects him. Meanwhile, self-doubt quietly takes notes and submits a resignation letter every 5 minutes. You think that's a productive meeting? That's your brain, without discipline. Now let's put discipline at the head of the table. Suddenly there's order. Emotions still get a voice, but they don't run the show. Anxiety raises her hand. Jealousy gets fact-checked. Anger goes for a walk. Self-doubt? We give her a coffee and a supportive sticky note. Everyone calms down. See the difference? Here's the part most people don't want to admit. Being ruled by emotion is easier. At least, at first. It's easier to snap than to pause. It's easier to binge than to breathe. It's easier to rant than to reflect. And it's way easier to blame everyone else than to say, maybe I need better structure. But that ease? It comes with a cost. Eventually, it costs your relationships. Your peace. Your goals. Your self-respect. And maybe even your dream life. The one that requires you to show up consistently, not just when you feel inspired. You want a shortcut to emotional freedom? Here it is. Practice discipline not as punishment, but as protection. You're not a robot for using a schedule. You're not boring for saying no to your impulses. You're not uptight for breathing instead of breaking something. You're smart. You're learning how to be the grown-up version of yourself, the one who doesn't take orders from a passing feeling just because it showed up with drama and volume. And yes, you'll mess it up sometimes. That's part of it. You'll slip, you'll react, you'll eat the cookie and cancel the call and ghost someone you meant to love. But discipline isn't about perfection, it's about returning. Again and again. Like a compass that always points you home. So next time you're tempted to say, "I'm just being myself," ask, "Am I being my highest self, or my most impulsive one?" And next time you think discipline is suffocating, remember, it's not a cage. It's a parachute. Coming up next, we're taking a magnifying glass to your emotional reactions, and revealing how most of them are actually lazy shortcuts. Yup. Emotional outbursts? Just cheap tricks with bad special effects. You're standing in line at the grocery store. Someone cuts ahead. No apology. No eye contact. Just vibes of total disregard. You feel it rising, that flash of heat in your chest. The internal monologue kicks off. "Oh, okay. Guess we don't believe in manners anymore. Should I say something? Should I just ram my cart into their ankles?" You don't. But you want to. And even though you stay silent, you walk out of there gripping a bag of spinach like it owes you money. Let's talk about it. Because what just happened wasn't logic. It wasn't deep. It wasn't even unique. It was an emotional reflex. A low-grade outburst, maybe invisible on the outside, but internally? A full emotional fire drill over, 5 seconds of line cutting. Here's a slightly uncomfortable truth. Most emotional outbursts are lazy responses. And no, I don't mean you're lazy as a person, I mean your brain is. It's optimized for speed, not wisdom. Let me explain. Your emotions are built for survival, not nuance. The moment something triggers you, whether it's a look, a word, or a notification that just feels off, your brain goes, "Threat detected," and fires off a ready-made reaction from your emotional junk drawer. And let me tell you, that drawer is messy. You've got anger in there from arguments you never resolved. Shame from old mistakes. Resentment you've been hoarding like expired condiments. So when something bumps you, even lightly, all of it spills out like emotional glitter you can't sweep up. And what do we usually do? We call it just being real. But what if real is just recycled reaction patterns? What if all those big emotional explosions aren't depth, but avoidance? Think about the last time you blew up, broke down, or spiraled. Did it solve anything? Or did it just relieve pressure? Because that's what most outbursts are, pressure release. Not communication. Not growth. Not speaking your truth. Just emotional steam because we never learned to cool the system down. Now don't get me wrong, your feelings are valid. They're trying to tell you something. But screaming, sulking, or rage-eating a sleeve of cookies isn't translating the message. It's distorting it. And worse, it's preventing you from actually doing the hard thing. Here's the real kicker. Emotional outbursts are often a way to dodge responsibility. Why take 5 deep breaths and calmly express your needs, when you could just yell and feel powerful for 5 seconds? Why sit with your disappointment when you could deflect it by blaming someone else for always doing this to you? Why admit, "I'm scared," when it's so much easier to shout, "You don't understand me"? Reactions give you an out. They feel productive. They're loud, fast, immediate. But they rarely move the needle. They just make noise. Want to test it? Next time you feel the urge to react, pause and ask, "What am I trying to avoid by blowing up right now?" The answer will surprise you. It might be vulnerability. It might be responsibility. It might be the fear that if you don't react strongly, people won't take you seriously. We've all been there. I'm not judging. I've emotionally slam-texted paragraphs before, and then reread them like a Netflix villain in a blackout. But I'm telling you, if you want a life that isn't held hostage by your moods, you have to stop giving reactions the keys. Let's go back to that emotional junk drawer for a second. Inside that drawer, you've got your favorite go-to emotions. The ones you reach for because they're familiar. For some people, it's anger. For others, it's passive aggression with a side of sarcasm. For some of us, it's a well-timed guilt trip, served cold. And you know what? These emotional tools work. At least short-term. They get people to back off. They create distance. They let you feel momentarily powerful. But over time, they leave you isolated, frustrated, confused about why your life feels like you're constantly in a soap opera. Discipline, on the other hand, asks more of you. Discipline says, "Hey, maybe don't react to that text right now. You're not in the right headspace." Discipline says, "You're feeling jealous. Why? What does that tell you about what you really want?" Discipline says, "Sit down. Breathe. Try again, but slower." And let's be honest, discipline is annoying. It's the broccoli of emotional tools. But it works. And eventually it tastes better than drama. Let's do another visual. Imagine every emotional outburst as you hurling a rock into a pond. You get that satisfying splash. That moment of release. But what happens after? Ripples. Damage. Silence. And then, cleanup. People who love you walking on eggshells. Opportunities passed over. A lingering sense that you overreacted again. You know what's harder? Sitting by the pond. Watching the water. Letting the rocks stay in your hand. Asking, "Why do I want to throw this?" That's discipline. And yes, it's boring. Especially compared to the dopamine high of saying what needed to be said, or finally letting it out. But boring is underrated. Because boring brings peace. Boring builds stability. Boring means you're not repairing damage from the night before, emotionally or literally. Look, we live in a world that rewards the loudest reaction. Social media thrives on outrage. Headlines are emotional outbursts with punctuation. But real life? Real connection? Real growth? They happen in the space between reactions. They happen in the pause. They happen when you feel the emotion rise, and you say, "Not yet." You're not suppressing. You're supervising. You're not bottling. You're building a container strong enough to hold it. You're becoming someone people can trust, not just with their time or heart, but with truth. Because people who can't regulate their emotions can't handle truth. They distort it. They destroy it. They dodge it. So next time you find yourself mid-eye roll, mid-rant, mid-meltdown, ask yourself, is this a true expression, or just an emotional shortcut? Because shortcuts feel good. But they almost never take you where you actually want to go. Coming up, we're going into your brain. Literally. Don't worry, no scalpels involved. But it's time you understood what's really happening up there when your emotions hijack the system. Spoiler alert, your brain isn't broken. But it might be on autopilot. Let's take a little field trip into your brain. Don't worry, we're not doing surgery. No gloves or awkward silence with a surgeon who looks like he's auditioning for a true crime podcast. Just a casual, friendly walkthrough of the chaos center inside your head. You've probably wondered before, why do I flip out over small things? Why does one rude text ruin my entire day? Why do I say things I don't mean, loudly, and with bold font energy? It's not because you're dramatic. Okay, maybe a little. It's because your brain is wired for drama. Let me introduce you to your amygdala, your brain's emotional security guard. Its job is to scan your surroundings 24/7 and whisper or scream, "Danger!" Whether the danger is real, imagined, or just your cousin liking your ex's photo. This part of your brain is ancient. Like, let's fight a saber-toothed tiger with a stick. Ancient. The amygdala is fast. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't check the context. It just sees a flicker of threat and slams the alarm button like it's competing on a game show. Here's how it works in real time. Let's say you're talking to someone, and they interrupt you. Innocent, right? But your amygdala? It flashes back to that time in 3rd grade when you were interrupted during show and tell and never recovered emotionally. So now, instead of calmly finishing your thought, you shut down, or blow up. Either way, the emotion takes the wheel. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the rational, big-picture thinking part of your brain, is over in the corner trying to break through the noise like, hey, maybe they didn't mean it. Let's not spiral. Let's not burn bridges. But by then, the fire's already lit. You're mid-rant, or mid-retreat, or mid-panic text. This is what people mean when they say, my emotions took over. They didn't take over. You handed them the keys because your brain's panic system convinced you there was a tiger in the room. There wasn't. It was just a tone, a look, a pause in a conversation. But your emotional brain doesn't wait to fact-check. It reacts first. It checks later. Sometimes days later. Usually while you're shampooing your hair and going, oh no. I definitely overreacted. Let's paint a clearer picture. Imagine your brain is an office. The amygdala is the guy running around with a clipboard yelling, we're all gonna die, every time someone knocks over a coffee mug. The prefrontal cortex is the calm CEO in the back office, sipping green tea, reviewing data, and saying, guys, it's a coffee mug. Chill. But here's the problem, the CEO is slow. Calm, but slow. The clipboard guy. He's fast. Fast like espresso. Fast like, I texted them 45 seconds ago and they haven't replied, so maybe I should cancel this entire relationship. In brain science, this is called the amygdala hijack, a real term. It means your emotional brain reacts so quickly, it temporarily shuts down the logical part of your mind. You're running on instinct, not insight. You know that moment when you're mid-argument, and you suddenly hear yourself say something so over the top it shocks even you? That's not you being evil. That's a hijack. That's you watching your own mouth say, you always do this, while your rational brain bangs on the glass like, no, don't say always. So what's the fix? Awareness is step one. Just knowing this is happening gives you a massive advantage. It's like realizing the villain in your story is actually your brain trying to protect you, with zero sense of nuance. Next time your emotions spike, pause and think, is this a tiger, or just a spilled latte? The second step? Delay the reaction. No, not suppress. Delay. Give your CO brain time to clock in. This might mean walking away. Taking a breath. Not replying to that text until after lunch. Let the panic pass through the gate before the reaction bolts out. And I know, that sounds simple. But it's not. Because in that exact moment, reacting feels so good. There's adrenaline. There's righteousness. There's that spicy rush of I'm gonna tell them how I really feel energy. But remember, just because it feels urgent doesn't mean it's important. Urgency is the amygdala's favorite party trick. It tells you that if you don't say something right now, the universe will collapse. That's rarely true. What is true? You will almost always respond better after the heat fades. Let's add a sprinkle of ridiculousness here. You know how dogs sometimes bark at their own reflection. That's your emotional brain. It sees something, anything, it doesn't understand, and its first instinct is attack. Now, if you had a dog that barked at mirrors, would you say, yes, absolutely, let's give this creature total control over our financial decisions, relationships, and social life? Exactly. You wouldn't. But you've been doing that, with your brain. Here's another way to think of it. Your emotions are like toddlers on a sugar high. Adorable, loud, occasionally wise, but not trustworthy enough to lead the household. Discipline isn't locking them in the basement. It's giving them structure. Hey, buddy. I hear you're upset. Totally valid. But we're not gonna throw a tantrum in the middle of the grocery store. We're gonna take a breath. Then we'll talk about it. That's the tone you need to adopt, with yourself. Because the real flex? Isn't yelling louder. Isn't crying harder. Isn't crafting the perfect passive-aggressive Instagram caption. The real flex is being the adult in your own brain. And look, I get it. You've been reacting this way for years. Maybe decades. Maybe your parents did it. Maybe your environment taught you that the loudest person wins, or that silence is power, or that shutting down emotionally is strong. But now you know the truth. Your brain has tools, systems, wires. And if you let the wrong ones run the show unchecked, they will. So here's your challenge. Next time you feel the hijack coming, heart racing, jaw clenching, the words bubbling up, pause. Ask, is this me, or is this a brain glitch? And then choose what you'll do next. Coming up next, we're diving into the pause. That sacred sliver of space between, I feel something, and, I do something stupid about it. And how you can train it like a muscle, awkwardly at first, but powerfully over time. So now you know your brain has two settings. 1. The emotional toddler with a megaphone. 2. The calm CEO sipping logic in the background. And if you're like most people, the toddler wins. Not because it's smarter, but because it gets there faster. It runs to the mic, screams into it, and by the time Logic CEO shows up, the damage is already done. You've sent the text. You've slammed the door. You've eaten the leftover cheesecake your roommate specifically labeled not yours. This is where we talk about the pause. Oh yes. The pause. That mystical, awkward, sacred space between, I feel something, and, I act on it. It's tiny. Barely noticeable. But it's everything. It's the 5 seconds between, they didn't text back, and, I'm gonna send a triple paragraph follow-up and a meme so they know I'm chill. It's the 2 seconds between, I'm frustrated, and, I'm gonna rehash this argument from 2018 because I just remembered something. And in that pause, is your freedom. Because here's the truth, your initial emotional reaction is not the problem. You can't control the spark. It's the wildfire you set with it that burns your life down. So, what exactly is the pause? It's the moment where discipline steps in and says, hey, I know you want to throw hands, but maybe let's take a beat. The pause is your secret weapon. Not because it's flashy, but because it breaks the pattern. It gives your logical brain time to clock in. And once you've created even a tiny gap between stimulus and response, you're no longer reacting. You're choosing. Let's break this into a visual, because metaphors help us not cry. Imagine you're on a train. It's moving fast, it's noisy, and the scenery is chaotic. You see something on the tracks ahead, it looks like a threat. Your emotional brain wants to pull the emergency brake and jump out the window. The pause? It's you stepping into the conductor's cabin and checking the map before doing something drastic. Maybe it's not a threat. Maybe it's just a shadow. Maybe it's your own projection. You ever said something like, I just reacted. I didn't even think. Exactly. The pause is where thinking happens. And the more you train it, the better it gets. Now let me say this gently but clearly. If you don't build a pause, your emotions will build patterns. And most of your patterns? They're old. They're dusty. They were created by 9-year-old you trying to survive a weird family dinner. They don't belong in your adult life. But they still run it, because you never learn how to stop and reassess before repeating them. The pause is how you update your system. It's how you stop the loop. It's your Control-Alt-Delete for emotional nonsense. But here's the kicker. At first, the pause feels unnatural, awkward, annoying. Why? Because reacting feels good. It's fast. It's juicy. It's emotional junk food. The pause feels like waiting in line at the DMV, boring, pointless, and why does it even exist? Frustrating. But that's the test. That discomfort? That's you breaking a habit. That's growth, but with lag time. So how do you build the pause? Let's get tactical. 1. Name the emotion. You can't pause what you can't see. So when you feel the flare-up, anger, jealousy, embarrassment, label it. Out loud if you have to. I'm feeling threatened. I'm feeling ignored. I'm feeling stupid and I want to fight someone. Naming it shifts it from being you to being something you're experiencing. 2. Breathe. I know. You're tired of hearing this. But you know why every therapist, monk, and gym coach tells you to breathe? Because it works. A deep breath triggers your nervous system to slow down. It literally sends the message: we're not being chased by a tiger. You can chill. 3. Buy time. You don't owe instant reactions to anyone. Not online. Not in person. Not in arguments. Try saying, "Let me think about that. I'm gonna take a moment before I respond." Or if you're texting, just don't. Lock your phone in a drawer. Give yourself 20 minutes. Or a snack. Or both. Snacks help everything. 4. Replace the reflex. If you always go straight to sarcasm when you're hurt, replace it with a question. If you always go silent when you're mad, replace it with, "I need a minute, but I want to talk." If your reflex is to spiral, replace it with one grounding action: stand up, touch a wall, drink water, look at a plant. Do something that brings you back to now. And here's the beautiful, painful part. At first, none of this will feel natural. You'll feel fake. You'll feel like you're holding back too much. You'll think, "This isn't me." But remember what we said? Maybe the you've been being isn't the one you want running the show anymore. The real you? The mature, grounded, emotionally steady version of you? That one lives inside the pause. Not in the performance. Not in the meltdown. Not in the auto-response. The pause is where you meet that higher version. Not all at once, but in slivers. In tiny, everyday decisions where you don't yell, don't panic, don't send the 2 a.m. essay text that ends with, "You never really saw me." The pause saves you. And it saves others from the version of you that only shows up when you're spinning. Let me give you a simple image. Your emotions are like waves. The pause is your surfboard. Without it you drown. With it you ride. Coming up next, we're diving into emotional endurance. Because once you learn to pause, the next challenge is learning to stay calm long enough to make the right move. And yes, that's a skill. One you're about to build, awkwardly, imperfectly, but powerfully. So you've built the pause. You've bought yourself that precious sliver of time between, "I'm feeling something crazy," and, "I'm about to do something I'll regret in 14 seconds. But now what? What happens after the pause? Because here's the truth. The pause doesn't solve the emotion. It just slows it down. And this is where the next level of discipline steps in, what we're calling emotional endurance. What's that? It's the ability to stay with a difficult feeling without trying to run, hide, yell, eat an entire pizza, or binge 12 episodes of a show you claim to barely watch. Emotional endurance is staying present while your heart races. It's breathing through the awkwardness instead of drowning in distraction. It's resisting the urge to fix it fast, when maybe, just maybe, the fixing requires sitting still. Let's break it down with a scene you'll recognize. You're having a difficult conversation. Your chest tightens. You feel misunderstood, maybe even attacked. Your go-to reaction is bubbling up, either lash out, shut down, or mentally leave the chat while maintaining polite eye contact. But then you pause. You don't react. You stay quiet. You think the hard part's over. But here's where it gets trickier. Because now you're sitting in discomfort. Unresolved. Still emotionally charged. Still hearing that voice in your head screaming, "Say something! Cry! Break something decorative!" This is where emotional endurance lives. It's that itchy, buzzing space where your brain's screaming for relief, but your soul knows, don't move too fast. Wait. Let it pass. Here's the thing, we're used to emotional microwaves. We want fast relief. Fast clarity. Fast validation. But emotions don't cook like that. They're more like slow-roasted chaos. They take time. And patience. And yeah, a little courage. If the pause is the breath, emotional endurance is the sitting still after the breath, even when everything in you says, "Run!" Want to know why most people never develop emotional discipline? Because they confuse discomfort with danger. Let's repeat that. Discomfort is not equal to danger. But your brain doesn't always know the difference. You feel anxious in a conversation, and your brain goes, leave. Escape. You're not safe. You feel embarrassed after opening up, and your brain whispers, never do that again. Vulnerability is death. You feel anger, and your brain yells, destroy. Make them feel what you feel. But here's the truth, none of those feelings are fatal. They're just feelings. Uncomfortable? Yes. Overwhelming? Sometimes. Unbearable? Never. Unless you believe they are. Let's say you're jealous. A friend just got something you wanted, maybe a job, a compliment, a relationship, and now you feel that punch in the gut. Without endurance, your instinct is to do something. Dismiss them. Distance yourself. Downplay their success. You try to solve the emotion by changing the external world. But emotional endurance says, feel it. Don't fix it. Sit with the burn. Watch it shrink. Because here's a wild fact. Most intense emotions pass in 90 seconds. 90. What keeps them alive isn't the feeling, it's the story you build around the feeling. I always get left behind. Good things never happen to me. I'm not enough. This proves it. That's not endurance. That's mental self-sabotage dressed in poetry. Emotional endurance is choosing to stop the loop. To feel the wave. To let it crash, and not chase it into the deep end. Let's get weird for a second. Imagine you're in a thunderstorm. Most people freak out, sprint, duck, hide. Endurance is standing under a small roof and saying, yeah, this storm sucks. But I'm dry. And it will pass. Does that mean you're not scared? Nope. Does that mean you enjoy it? Definitely not. It means you trust the storm to end more than you trust your panic to protect you. That's the shift. Because here's the lie most of us believe. If I don't do something with this emotion, I'll drown in it. But the truth? You drown not because you feel, but because you flail. Sit still. Breathe. Feel. Don't fix. That's endurance. And here's the wild thing, the longer you build this muscle, the quieter your emotions become. Not because they disappear, but because they realize they don't need to scream anymore to get your attention. You become the calm. You become the roof. You become the safe space you've been chasing in other people, other distractions, other reactions. It's not a quick process. You'll mess up. You'll flinch. You'll fall into old habits. But the more you practice staying, with the sadness, with the embarrassment, with the simmering frustration, the less control those feelings will have over you. They don't disappear. They become background music instead of a fire alarm. One last image to seal this in. Think of emotions like waves at the beach. The first time you try to stand in them, you get knocked over. But if you learn to stay grounded, to plant your feet, to bend your knees when the water hits, suddenly you're not fighting anymore. You're flowing. And the waves? They still come. But they don't take you with them. Coming up, we're finally going to crack the code on how to actually make discipline stick. Like, permanently. No more. Motivated for 3 days and then back to chaos. We're talking rituals, not resolutions, and how to sneak them into your life without needing a total personality transplant. Okay. You've paused. You've breathed. You've held the emotion in your hands without letting it explode like a glitter bomb at a toddler birthday party. First off, respect. You're doing what most people never even attempt. But now comes the million-dollar question. How do you make discipline stick? Not for a day. Not for a new week, new me kind of thing. I mean for real. Like brushing your teeth or wearing pants before a Zoom call. Because here's what usually happens. You read something inspiring. You watch a video. You get all hyped on motivation fumes. You set goals. You say, that's it. Tomorrow I wake up at 5 a.m., meditate, journal, drink lemon water, run 3 miles, and write a novel before breakfast. And for 2 days? You're crushing it. Day 3? You wake up tired, you scroll your phone for 45 minutes, and suddenly you're eating leftover lasagna in bed asking, why am I like this? Here's why: motivation is a liar. It shows up loud, then ghosts you without warning. What you need is ritual, structure, systems that run even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. Discipline isn't about being in the mood. It's about designing your life to make the right choice the easier choice. So let's get tactical. Step 1. Lower the bar. Seriously. You think you lack discipline, but really? You're just expecting Olympic-level performance from a brain that's still recovering from its TikTok scroll hangover. Your goal isn't to change your whole life overnight. Your goal is to make the new habit so small that your emotional resistance can't argue with it. Don't try to meditate for 30 minutes. Start with 2 minutes. Don't journal like a philosopher. Write 3 bullet points. Don't promise to never react again. Just promise to pause once. Discipline grows from tiny wins stacked consistently. We've been tricked into believing success comes from massive effort. But really? It comes from sneaky repetition. Like a drop of water on stone. Small, soft, repeated. Over time, it carves deep change. Step 2. Make it visible. Your brain is visual. You can't improve what you don't see. So if you're trying to change your emotional habits, track it. Keep a simple log. Did I pause before reacting today? Did I choose calm over chaos? Did I endure discomfort instead of escaping it? You're not tracking for judgment. You're tracking for awareness. And something weird happens when you start seeing your own progress, even in checkmarks and scribbles. You want to keep going. It becomes a game. A momentum loop. Step 3. Build triggers. Your brain already has emotional triggers, words, smells, looks that set you off like a firecracker. Now, it's time to create disciplined triggers. These are tiny environmental cues that say, "Hey, time to show up." Examples. Put a sticky note on your mirror that says, "Pause equals power." Set a daily alarm labeled, "Feel it. Don't flee it." Put your journal where your phone usually sleeps. Yes, I said it. You're not waiting to feel inspired. You're engineering your environment to pull you into the habits you actually want. Step 4. Pair it with pleasure. Discipline doesn't have to feel like punishment. In fact, it shouldn't. Pair your new habits with something that makes you smile, even if it feels silly. Light a candle when you write. Play music when you clean. Eat your favorite snack after sitting through a tough feeling without escaping it. Reward yourself for emotional regulation. Most people only reward external productivity. But emotional self-control? That's high-level work. Celebrate it. Step 5. Expect the crash. Plan for it. This might be the most important one. Ready? You will mess up. You'll have a day when you lose your cool. You'll spiral. You'll forget to pause. You'll say the thing. And the temptation will be to say, "Well, there goes my progress. Guess I'll start again next month." No. Stop that. Progress isn't a straight line. It's a messy scribble that still trends upward. One bad moment doesn't erase the work. It proves the work. Every time you return to the practice after slipping, you build resilience. That's real discipline, not perfection, but the habit of returning. One more thing, let's talk about identity. You won't stick to new habits if you keep saying, "I'm just not a disciplined person." That's not a fact. That's a script. And it's time to rewrite the role. Start saying, "I'm the kind of person who breathes before reacting. I'm someone who can sit with discomfort. I'm learning to trust myself." Identity is sticky. When you believe you are someone, your actions follow. And no, it doesn't happen overnight. This isn't a makeover montage with peppy music and a surprise dance break. Though honestly, that would be fun. It's slow. It's awkward. It's showing up daily, even when it's boring. But that's the secret. Discipline isn't a feeling. It's a form of self-respect. And when you practice it long enough, something shifts. You stop being impressed by chaos. You stop needing dramatic emotional highs and lows. You start craving calm. You start creating peace on purpose. Because it turns out, the most emotionally alive version of you isn't the one who reacts instantly. It's the one who builds their life intentionally. Coming up, emotions don't just sabotage your reactions, they sabotage your relationships. We're diving into how undisciplined feelings wreck connections, and how emotional boundaries will actually make people love and trust you more, not less. Let's talk about your relationships. Romantic ones, family drama, group chats, the coworker who says, "no offense," before saying something offensive, all of it. Here's the not-so-pretty truth. Your emotions don't just affect you. They affect everyone around you. And if you don't learn to discipline them, they'll start to sabotage your connections. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. When you're upset, does the room go silent? Do people tiptoe around your moods like they're avoiding a landmine? Do you ever notice how the people closest to you react when you walk in with a look? That's the ripple effect of emotional chaos. Because emotions, even when silent, carry energy. And people feel it. Especially the people who love you. They absorb it like emotional Wi-Fi. And when your feelings become unpredictable, the people around you stop feeling safe. Not physically unsafe, emotionally unsafe. Like they can't be honest with you. Like they have to guess which version of you they're going to get today. And over time, that erodes trust. Even if no one says anything. You see, the common idea is, if someone really loves me, they'll accept me as I am, even when I'm emotional. Sure. True. But there's a difference between being emotional and being emotionally reckless. One is vulnerability. The other is volatility. Love can handle vulnerability. But volatility? That wears people down. Think of it like this. Being emotionally undisciplined in a relationship is like driving a car with a broken steering wheel, and still inviting people to ride shotgun. They might come along at first, but sooner or later, they'll find another ride. One with fewer emotional near-death experiences. Let's make this more real. Say your partner gives you feedback. Something small. "Hey, I felt a little dismissed earlier when I was talking." An undisciplined response? Defensiveness. You fire back. "Well, I didn't mean it like that." "You're too sensitive. You always twist what I say." Boom, now they're the problem. Their vulnerability is punished. They shut down. You think you won the moment, but you lost the intimacy. Or maybe your friend says no to hanging out. And instead of saying, "Cool, catch you next time," you feel rejected, and suddenly you're cold, distant, passive-aggressive. Why? Because you're letting your feelings control the atmosphere. And here's the secret. Emotionally safe people are magnetic. Not because they're perfect, but because being around them feels like a deep exhale. You don't have to guess their mood. You don't have to walk on eggshells. You don't have to decode every text. They're predictable, in the best way. They're consistent. They're calm under pressure. And when they're upset, they say it, but they don't spray it. That's emotional discipline. And it builds relational equity. Now let's flip the coin. If you've ever been on the receiving end of someone else's emotional chaos, you know what it feels like. The tension. The way you brace yourself before saying something honest. The exhaustion after every conversation. The way their emotions take up all the space, until there's none left for yours. And one day, you stop calling. Not because you don't care, but because you're tired. And you just want peace. Don't be that person. So how do you shift? Let's get practical, because I promise you structure, not just emotional TED Talks. Step 1. Communicate without the costume. When you're upset, don't perform it. Don't slam cabinets, give the silent treatment, or use sarcasm as a weapon. Just say it. Directly. Gently. Like this. "Hey, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I don't want to take it out on you. Can we talk later?" It's honest. It's human. It's healthy. That sentence has saved relationships. Step 2. Ask before you unload. Yes, you're allowed to vent. But ask. Do you have the space for me to vent about something, or should I wait? That one question shows respect. It tells the other person, I see you. I value your energy too. It turns emotional release into mutual connection, not a one-way emotional dump. Step 3. Stop expecting others to manage your moods. This is hard. Because deep down, we all want someone to say, it's okay, you're allowed to feel that. And yes, you are. But it's not their job to carry it for you. Emotional accountability means asking, is what I'm about to say helpful, or just me outsourcing my discomfort? You get to feel things. You don't get to weaponize them. Step 4. Start taking emotional responsibility like it's a daily vitamin. Here's a phrase that changes the game. That was on me. Say it often. Say it when you interrupt. Say it when you overreact. Say it when your tone was off. It's not weakness, it's emotional maturity. Because when people see that you can own your emotional impact, even when unintentional, they trust you more, not less. Want to make someone feel safe? Don't just be loving. Be accountable. Step 5. Create space for their emotions too. You know how good it feels when someone listens to you without jumping in, fixing, defending, or redirecting the spotlight? Give that gift. Let someone else cry without making it about your pain. Let someone else speak without forming your counterpoint. Let someone else feel without feeling like you need to fix or control it. Because the irony? The more control you build over your emotions, the more freedom you give others to feel theirs. That's relational power. That's emotional maturity. That's what makes you a person people want in their corner, when life's good, and when life's falling apart. Here's the image I want to leave you with today. Your relationships are like a garden. And your emotions? They're the weather. When you let storms run unchecked, you drown everything. When you bring heat constantly, you scorch the roots. But when you learn to regulate the weather, when you bring sun, and shade, and steady rain, things grow. People open up. Love lasts. Coming up next, you've started the inner work. You're changing the patterns. But what about the people who don't respect your emotional growth? The ones who still want the old version of you. We're talking boundaries, baby. How to set them, hold them, and survive the guilt trip afterward. By now you're leveling up. You're pausing. You're not throwing emotional grenades every time someone breathes funny. You're finally, starting to see yourself becoming that calm, emotionally sturdy version of you. But then they show up. Them. The people who want the old you. You know the ones. The friend who still expects you to respond to drama with more drama. The family member who treats you like the teenager version of yourself. The coworker who's addicted to chaos and feels personally attacked by your new peace. See, as you change, something weird happens. You outgrow dynamics. You start setting boundaries. And suddenly people who are fine with your lack of discipline aren't so fine with your self-respect. Because guess what? When you stop letting people walk all over you, they don't applaud. They complain. Here's the truth no one tells you. When you build emotional discipline, some people will mistake it for being cold, selfish, distant, or not fun anymore. But what you're really doing? You're protecting your peace. And protecting your peace requires one of the hardest emotional muscles to train, boundaries. Not the mean kind. Not the, I blocked them because they took too long to reply, kind. I'm talking real, uncomfortable, guilt-inducing, game-changing boundaries. So let's walk through it. What is a boundary? A boundary is a line that separates what you're responsible for from what you're not. You are responsible for your words. You are not responsible for someone else's overreaction to them. You are responsible for your availability. You are not responsible for someone else's entitlement to your time. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're fences to keep your sanity in. But let's be real, it's one thing to want boundaries. It's another thing to enforce them when people push back. Because they will. Especially if your past behavior taught them you didn't have any. Here's what the boundary process really looks like. Step 1. Clarity. Know your limits before someone crosses them. What drains you? What triggers resentment? Start there. Maybe you realize you don't want to answer work emails after 7 p.m. You're not okay with friends calling you just to vent without checking in. You're tired of being the emotional trash bin for everyone's mess. Cool. Those are boundaries. Now comes the real step. Step 2, communication. This is where everyone gets nervous. Because it feels like you're being mean. But setting a boundary isn't an attack. It's a declaration of self-respect. Here's how to do it, calmly and clearly. I want to be there for you, but I've realized I need to protect my energy too. Can we talk when I'm in a better headspace? Hey, I'm not checking emails after 7 p.m. to keep work from taking over my life. I'll get back to you tomorrow morning. I care about you, but I can't be your go-to person when I'm emotionally overwhelmed myself. You don't have to be rude. But you do have to be direct. And yes, you will feel guilty. Especially if you're a recovering people pleaser. But that guilt? That's not a sign you're doing something wrong. That's a sign you're doing something new. Now comes the pushback. Step 3. Holding the line. This is where emotional discipline really gets tested. They might pout. They might ignore your boundary. They might call you different, selfish, or worse, too much. Let them. Because every time you enforce a boundary, you're teaching people how to treat you, and retraining yourself to believe you deserve peace. Here's something important to remember. The people who benefit from your lack of boundaries are the ones who will be most upset when you set them. Don't confuse their discomfort with your mistake. Their frustration is not your fault. It's just a sign that they were benefiting from your burnout. Let's look at this through a quick analogy. You've been handing out free emotional coffee to everyone in your life, extra foam, oat milk, zero boundaries. And now you're saying, hey, I still serve love and support, but only from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and I charge emotional tax. Some people will say, what? I've been getting lattes here for free for years. And you'll have to smile and say, yeah, that was my bad. I'm changing the menu. Let them grumble. They'll either adjust, or they'll leave. Either way, you win. Let's tackle a fear that comes up here. What if I lose people? You might. You might lose people who only knew how to connect with your chaos. You might lose people who only liked you when you had no boundaries. You might lose people who made you feel responsible for their happiness. And as painful as it is, that's called emotional pruning. You're clearing space for the people who can love the disciplined, peaceful, powerful version of you. Because those people exist. The ones who respect your boundaries. The ones who appreciate your calm. The ones who don't need you to self-destruct to feel close to them. You're not losing people. You're just losing patterns. Old, unhealthy patterns that kept you in emotional debt, giving and giving, while your soul sat empty. And as those patterns fall away, you start to attract a different kind of relationship. One built on mutual respect. One that says, I want you happy, not just available. One where your peace isn't a problem, it's a feature. That's the power of boundaries. They're uncomfortable at first. They feel selfish. But over time, they create space for something deeper, cleaner, and infinitely more satisfying than approval. Peace. Coming up next, we're diving into the most dangerous lie your emotions tell you, that you need to feel ready to act. We'll break down why action without emotional permission is the game changer, and how disciplined people move forward even when they're scared, uncertain, or not in the perfect mood. So, you've learned to pause. You've learned to sit with hard feelings. You've built rituals, set boundaries, and even endured the guilt of not being everyone's emotional babysitter. That's big. But there's one final trap that still catches even the most emotionally disciplined person. Waiting to feel ready. Let's get real. How many things have you not done because you were waiting for the right mindset, the right mood, the right moment? I'll speak up in the meeting when I feel more confident. I'll go to therapy once I feel less overwhelmed. I'll start the thing when I'm less scared. Spoiler alert, that moment never comes. Because here's the sneaky truth your emotions keep whispering. Don't move yet. You're not ready. You need to feel better first. But that's the lie. Your emotions are not prerequisites for action. You don't need to feel brave to take a brave step. You don't need to feel ready to get started. You don't need clarity before you begin moving. And if you wait for the perfect emotional conditions, your life will stay on pause while the world keeps spinning. Let's flip the script. Emotionally disciplined people don't act because they feel good. They act in spite of how they feel. They don't wait for fear to vanish. They move with fear in their pocket. They don't wait to feel like they have everything figured out. They trust that clarity comes after commitment. This is where the shift happens. This is where discipline stops being about control and starts being about freedom. Let's paint a quick scene. You wake up, heart heavy, mind foggy, that old feeling knocking. Not today. You're off. You're tired. You don't have it in you. And instead of arguing with it, instead of spiraling, you say, "Cool. You can ride along. But I'm still going." That's discipline. It's not about being unfeeling. It's about being unwilling to be ruled by your feelings. Think about all the times you've skipped something that would have helped your future self, just because present you didn't feel like it. Not journaling because your thoughts were messy. Not apologizing because you didn't feel fully guilty yet. Not setting the boundary because you didn't feel strong enough. Here's the truth. Feelings are data, not drivers. Your fear is information. Your sadness is valid. Your confusion matters. But they don't get to be in charge. You can feel deeply and act wisely. But that means doing something hard, divorcing action from emotional permission. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine your emotions as weather. Some days, it's sunny and perfect. Other days, it's raining sideways with a tornado warning. But if you only ever went outside on clear days, you'd never get anywhere. Emotionally disciplined people? They carry umbrellas. They wear rain boots. They go anyway. Now I know what you're thinking. But if I push through emotions, isn't that ignoring them? Not at all. Discipline isn't denial. It's decision-making. It says, I acknowledge this feeling. I respect it. I might journal about it later. But right now, I have things to do. You're not bulldozing your emotions. You're simply refusing to let them bulldoze your life. Let's make it even more practical. You don't need to feel motivated to send the difficult text, do the workout, have the hard conversation, start the project, leave the relationship, show up for yourself. You just need 1 second of courage, 1 step forward. And here's what's wild: action generates emotion, not the other way around. You don't get confident and then take the risk. You take the risk, and that builds confidence. You don't wait to feel calm and then speak up. You speak up and realize you can survive the chaos. You don't wait to stop being afraid. You walk with the fear and let it burn off along the way. The people you admire most? They're not fearless. They're just not waiting. That's the mindset shift. You stop asking, "Do I feel like it?" And you start asking, "Is this aligned with who I'm becoming?" Discipline isn't loud. It's not glamorous. It's doing the quiet, boring, brave thing, without applause. And the more you practice it, the less your feelings will hijack your progress. That doesn't mean you never cry, or vent, or spiral a little in the car on a Tuesday afternoon while screaming to your favorite sad playlist. It's fine. We all do it. But it means those feelings don't stop you. You spiral, but you still show up. You cry, but you still clean the kitchen. You overthink, but you still make the call. You feel awkward, but you still press record. That's what separates the "I want to change" crowd from the "I am changing" crowd. One group waits. The other moves anyway. So here's a challenge for you. Pick one thing you've been putting off because you didn't feel ready. And do it. Not because you feel clear. Not because it's easy. But because it's aligned with the version of you that no longer lets emotions hold the keys. Yes, your heart might race. Your brain might panic. Your stomach might do that weird flip. Do it anyway. And when it's done, Pause. Breathe. Celebrate. Because every time you act without needing to feel amazing, you're building the emotional muscle that most people never develop. The one that says, I don't need to feel ready. I just need to be willing. Coming up next, the emotional trap of identity. How the way you see yourself secretly fuels your emotional habits, and how rewriting your inner narrative might be the final unlock in building real, lasting discipline. Let's talk about you. Not the you that shows up on social media. Not the you that says, I'm fine, when your insides are on fire. Not even the you that's building habits and rituals and watching videos like this. I'm talking about the core you. The one you believe yourself to be. The one who whispers beneath the surface. This is just who I am. Because that voice? That identity? It's running the whole show. See, people think discipline is all about behavior. Wake up early. Breathe. Count to 10. Do the thing. But here's the twist. You will never sustain behavior that conflicts with your identity. Let that sink in. If deep down you believe, I'm an emotional wreck, you will find ways to stay chaotic. If you think, I'm just not disciplined, you will sabotage your own routines. If your inner story says, I always quit, then when things get hard, your brain will say, yup, that checks out. Your beliefs are like your phone's operating system. You can download all the motivational apps you want, but if the OS is corrupted, nothing will run right. Let me give you a wild truth. Your identity isn't fixed. It's built. You are not born with emotional habits. You practice them. You are not cursed with chaos. You rehearse it. You are not just that way. You're just used to being that way. And what you rehearse, you become. So let's ask the hard question. Who do you believe you are emotionally? The peacemaker who never says no? The overreactor who always escalates? The cold one who shuts down? The hot mess with a great sense of humor? You might even joke about it. I'm the dramatic one. I cry at everything. I'm totally avoidant. I have trust issues. But when you label yourself, your actions follow that label. Because the brain wants to stay consistent. It hates internal conflict. So it will protect the story even if the story is hurting you. That's why some people stay in pain. Not because they enjoy it. Because it feels familiar. And familiarity equals safety to your nervous system. But here's the good news. You can edit the story. In fact, the most powerful emotional shift you can make is rewriting how you see yourself. Start small. Stop saying, I always overreact. Start saying, I'm learning to respond with clarity. Stop saying, I'm not disciplined. Start saying, I'm becoming more intentional every day. Stop saying, I can't handle hard conversations. Start saying, I'm building the strength to sit with discomfort. Sounds cheesy? Sure. But identity isn't about sounding cool. It's about creating internal alignment. Let's go deeper. Every time you act with emotional discipline, pause, breathe, choose wisely, you're casting a vote for the identity of calm, powerful, grounded. Every time you set a boundary, you vote for self-respecting. Every time you endure discomfort without escape, you vote for resilient. Every time you return after a mistake, you vote for consistent. And yes, you'll still slip. You'll still have moments when you say, who am I kidding? I'm a mess. That's okay. That's not failure. That's identity friction, and it means you're growing. Because when the old version of you starts to feel fake, and the new version feels awkward, you're in the middle of transformation. It's like wearing new shoes. They rub at first. You want to go back to the comfy, worn-out pair, even if they had holes. But if you keep walking, the new ones break in. And eventually, they feel like you. That's what emotional identity work feels like. At first, saying, I'm calm under pressure, feels like a lie. But the more you say it, and back it up with action, the more your brain starts to believe it. And once your brain believes it, your habits follow. Effortlessly. Here's a powerful practice. Every night, write down one sentence that reinforces the emotional identity you want to build. Just one. I am someone who can stay grounded in chaos. I respond instead of react. I show up for myself, even on off days. I don't need to feel ready to take action. I can hold space for others without losing myself. Do this for 30 days. No pressure. No perfect words. Just consistent identity reps. Because over time, you'll stop performing discipline and start becoming someone who naturally lives it. This is the moment where emotional growth turns from effort to ease. You no longer have to force yourself to act calm because you are calm. You don't need to overcorrect after a blow-up because blow-ups become rare. You don't need to fake confidence. You've built it from showing up again and again. Your identity catches up with your actions. And then, everything starts to flow. Because here's what they don't tell you. Discipline isn't about fighting yourself. It's about becoming the version of you who doesn't need to fight anymore. Coming up next, the final stretch. We'll stitch it all together. How to stay on this path long term, how to forgive the setbacks, and how to live as someone whose emotions no longer run the show, but ride calmly in the back seat. So here we are. Almost full circle. You've been rewiring your reactions. You've paused when it was easier to panic. You've sat in discomfort without fleeing. You've reshaped your rituals, set boundaries, challenged your stories, and maybe for the first time ever, you've started to trust yourself. But now comes the part nobody glamorizes. The long middle. Not the beginning when it's all exciting. Not the end when the results show. The middle, where it's quiet, boring, and nobody claps. That's where most people quit. Because discipline isn't sexy here. It's not dramatic. It's showing up again when you'd rather coast. It's holding yourself together without needing an emergency. So let's talk about how you sustain it. Not for a week. Not for a 30-day challenge. But for life. Step 1. Let go of perfect. You're going to fall. You're going to snap. You'll have a Tuesday where you lose your cool over something like a misplaced sock or the wrong tone in a text. It's not failure. It's part of the practice. Discipline isn't a perfect streak, it's the ability to return without self-shaming. You don't lose progress by messing up. You lose it by telling yourself the mess up means you're broken. So, when you react emotionally and you hate how it went, try this. That wasn't who I want to be. But now I know. I'll try again tomorrow. That phrase is pure gold. Use it. Repeat it. Let it keep you going. Step 2. Make maintenance your new motivation. At some point, the thrill fades. You've grown. You're not where you were. But the emotional fireworks are gone. Now you're just living differently. More peaceful. Less reactive. Less drawn to drama. And that can feel weird. Because chaos was exciting, right? Emotions made things feel important. But that wasn't meaning. That was emotional inflation. Everything felt big because you didn't know how to shrink it. Now you do. So the peace you feel? That's not emptiness. That's clarity. Get used to it. Learn to love the calm. It means your nervous system is no longer addicted to adrenaline. It means your life isn't a crisis needing constant emotional CPR. Step 3. Surround yourself with emotional equals. This one matters more than you think. If you keep trying to live with emotional discipline in a circle that feeds off chaos, you'll get pulled back. Not because you're weak. Because we're all wired to mirror what's around us. So pay attention to your emotional environment. Do your friends encourage your growth, or subtly mock it? Do your conversations feed peace, or spiral into drama? Do you feel lighter after being with someone, or heavier? Sometimes, emotional discipline means distancing yourself from people you love, because they refuse to grow. And yes, that's painful. But remember, your peace is not up for negotiation. You're not abandoning them. You're protecting what you've built. And maybe one day, they'll catch up. But for now, choose the environment that honors the version of you you're becoming. Step 4. Keep learning. This journey doesn't end. New triggers will show up. Old patterns will try to sneak back. Stress will knock on your door wearing a fake mustache. Stay curious. Journal often. Check in with yourself. Ask questions like, what emotion is loudest in me today? What do I need that I'm not giving myself? What am I pretending not to feel? This is self-leadership. Not being in control of every feeling, but being in dialogue with them. And lastly, Step 5, forgive the past version of you. The one who screamed. The one who ghosted. The one who begged. The one who broke things and blamed and shut down or lashed out. That version? They weren't evil. They were untrained. They were surviving the only way they knew how. And now? Now you've outgrown them. So don't carry shame. Carry gratitude. They got you here. But they don't get to run the show anymore. You are not your past reactions. You are the one who is choosing, every day, to respond differently. And that choice? That's power. Not loud, showy power. Quiet, resilient, grounded power. You're not the person who explodes anymore. You're not the person who needs constant emotional approval. You're not the person who waits to feel ready. You've become someone else. Someone new. Someone peaceful, on purpose. Coming up next, in Part 14, we'll explore how to pass this emotional strength forward. How to teach, lead, model, and inspire discipline in others, not with lectures, but with the quiet way you live. We're building emotional legacy. You've done the internal work. You've built the structure, survived the backslides, and come out more calm, more steady, more you than you've ever been. So now what? You live it. And if you live it well, you start to do something incredible. You inspire other people to do it too. Not because you tell them to. Not because you send them this video and say, you really need to watch this. Though, okay, if you do that, I won't stop you. But because your presence becomes its own kind of quiet permission. Let me tell you something that may surprise you. Emotionally disciplined people are contagious. When you're around someone who doesn't flinch at discomfort, who doesn't rush to fill silence, who breathes through conflict instead of swinging at it, you notice. You want to know how they do it. You lean in. You pay attention. Because in a world that's constantly reacting, stillness stands out. And if you do this right, you won't just heal yourself, you'll start to become a mirror for others. But let's be clear, that doesn't mean fixing anyone. That's not your job. Your job is not to become the emotional janitor for your friend group, or to rescue your partner from their own storms, or to be a mentor to every adult child masquerading as a functional human. Your job is to model the peace you want to see. Want your partner to be less reactive? Be the one who listens when they're heated. Want your friend to set boundaries? Respect theirs, even when it's inconvenient. Want your kid to regulate their emotions? Show them what it looks like when you take space, cool off, and return with love. You don't have to preach it. Just practice it. Because real influence doesn't shout. It radiates. Let's talk about leadership for a second. And I don't mean job titles. I mean emotional leadership. That's what you become when you consistently choose the high road, not out of superiority, but out of alignment. The emotionally disciplined person walks into a tense room and instantly lowers the volume, without even saying a word. Why? Because their energy says, I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to perform. I'm here to hold. That's rare. And that's why your work doesn't end with you. It expands. But here's the challenge. Sometimes, being emotionally strong means disappointing people. Not because you want to, but because you won't absorb their chaos. You won't co-sign their victim story. You won't feed the cycle. And some people, they need the cycle to feel connected. So when you step out of it, they might see you've changed. They might accuse you of not caring. They might test you, again and again. Your job is to hold the line. To show them what love looks like without self-sacrifice. To show them what peace looks like without people-pleasing. To show them what accountability looks like without shame. It's a subtle kind of teaching. But it works. Because people don't change when you tell them they're wrong. They change when they realize there's another way, and it feels better. So now the question becomes, what kind of emotional legacy are you leaving? Are you the person who normalizes panic, avoidance, blame? Or the person who teaches that it's okay to slow down, breathe, ask for what you need, and own your mistakes? What do your kids learn from your tone? What do your coworkers absorb from your responses? What do your friends pick up from the way you set time aside to regulate instead of react? You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be committed. And you already are. Every time you take a breath instead of biting back. Every time you choose discomfort over destruction. Every time you say, I need a moment, instead of blowing up. You're changing the air around you. That's the work. That's the legacy. One day, someone might say, I've never met someone who made me feel safer during conflict. Or, you're the calmest person I know. Or even just, being around you helps me breathe better. That's not by accident. That's emotional discipline. That's the ripple effect of you showing up differently, not once, but daily. So if you're wondering, what if no one notices? They will. And if they don't say it? Their nervous systems will still remember you. The calm. The steadiness. The choice to not escalate, even when it would have felt good in the moment. You're not just doing this for peace. You're doing this for impact. And not the kind that gets likes. The kind that changes lives quietly. Next up, the final part. We're going to bring it all together, slow things down, breathe a little, and close with a soft, heartfelt look at everything you've become, and everything you're becoming. Hello everyone, today we will wrap up this entire journey with something rare. A moment of stillness. This video, this entire series, has been about something more than just being in control. It's about remembering that you don't have to be led by every flicker of emotion, every sharp word, every story you used to tell yourself. You're learning, right now, how to lead yourself. But before we drift into the details, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so I have the motivation to make more good and useful videos. And hey, so before you and I watch the video, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you really like what I do here. Now, let's exhale. Let's look at what you've really done. You've questioned your automatic reactions. You've built in pause. You've said, wait, I can choose something else. You've learned to sit in discomfort, without reaching for chaos to soothe it. You've confronted the identity that whispered, this is just who I am. And you challenged it with, this is who I'm becoming. That's growth. That's maturity. That's emotional discipline. And in doing so, you've started shaping a version of yourself that's not just reactive, but responsive. Not just exhausted, but intentional. Not just hopeful, but equipped. Let's slow down here. This doesn't mean you're invincible. It doesn't mean you'll never cry on the floor, say something you regret, feel like you're breaking all over again. You will. Because you're human. But now you know what to do next. You know how to name it. Pause. Breathe. Hold the feeling like a soft, anxious animal in your hands, without needing to run from it, or shove it down someone's throat. You know how to say, that wasn't who I want to be, but I'll try again tomorrow. And that alone makes you powerful. It means you're no longer shackled to the roller coaster of your own moods. It means you can hold space for chaos without becoming it. It means you've earned the right to trust yourself again. Because at the heart of all this, beyond the tools, the metaphors, the breakdowns, there's just this one truth. You are safe in your own presence now. And that's rare. Most people live at war with themselves. They run from their emotions, or drown in them. But you've chosen a different way. Not perfection. Not numbness. But awareness with action. And here's the part one don't want you to miss. You didn't need a total life makeover to do this. You didn't need a dramatic awakening, or an ayahuasca trip in the mountains, or 12 therapists, and a monk. You just needed a decision. One moment where you said, I'm tired of being ruled by what I feel. And then you build from there. Step by step. Boundary by boundary. Breath by breath. And now? Look at you. You are the kind of person who can sit with pain, without needing to make others feel it. You are the kind of person who can regulate their nervous system in the middle of a heated moment. You are the kind of person who leads, not because of how loud you are, but because of how deeply you listen. You're the person in the room who makes everyone else feel just a little bit calmer, just by being you. That didn't happen by accident. That was earned. And if no one has told you this yet, I'm proud of you. Not just for watching this, but for doing it. For trying. For messing up. For getting back up. So here's your final practice. Just breathe. In through your nose. Hold it. Out through your mouth. Feel the weight of this entire journey settle into your body. You don't have to fix anything today. You don't have to perform. You don't have to reach. You've already started. You're already on the path. Let the world react. Let chaos swirl. You've learned how to stay grounded. You've learned how to live a life where emotions get to be heard, but not obeyed. Where boundaries are clear. Where peace isn't a moment, it's a muscle. Where you finally feel like yourself, not your moods. You've made it to the other side of something most people never even try. And from here, you'll build something even better. Quieter. Stronger. Yours. Thank you for being here. Thank you for becoming. Now go walk in that peace. And if today's not perfect, try again tomorrow. At its core, without discipline, your emotions will run your life as a journey from reaction to intention. You've learned that emotions are real, but they're not rulers. The book walked you through recognizing emotional chaos, creating pause, and building daily rituals that hold your inner world together even when the outer one unravels. It showed you that emotional discipline isn't cold, it's freedom. It's waking up and choosing how to respond instead of defaulting to the storm. Through setbacks, slip-ups, and slow changes, you saw that it's not about being perfect, it's about returning. Again and again. You learned how to untangle identity from emotion, how to set and hold boundaries without guilt, and how to act even when you don't feel ready. Most importantly, you saw that your emotional legacy, how people feel around you, can be changed, shaped, and elevated by how you carry yourself. This wasn't just a book about feelings. It was a manual for peace. Now you don't just react. You choose. You lead. You listen. You hold. And through that stillness, you've become someone else, someone wiser, more grounded, and deeply human. Let that be the new normal. Let that be the legacy. Let that be you. Thank you for watching. And hey, like, subscribe, and come back soon. We're just getting started.